60 Minutes Rewind.
Chances are your car is sat in your garage or driveway this weekend, and chances are that your local gas station is going to be closed a lot more Sundays this winter. What part does the Arab oil embargo play in all of this? One Middle East monarch thinks that you're being sold a bill of goods. To try to understand something of the background of the oil shortage, a 60 Minutes crew has spent the last 3 weeks in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia and Iran, the two largest oil exporting countries in the world. Our story on Saudi Arabia is still in work, but in Iran, earlier this week, we went to see the man who runs that country and, in effect, its oil industry. Shah Mohammed Reza Pahlavi is not an Arab. He makes a point of calling himself Aryan. And unlike the Arabs, he will sell oil to anyone if the price is right. Along with the Arabs, he is a member of OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. That's the group that is holding the world's feet to the fire with the rocketing price of oil. This week in Tehran, the Shah offered to put up $1 billion, and he can afford it, of his oil money, for a fund that would cushion the devastating economic effect of the oil crunch on the have-not nations. And he took time out in his Niavaran palace to talk to us. Sheikh Yamani told me a week ago in Riyadh that he was very optimistic that during February there was going to come the disengagement between Syria and Israel and the oil embargo would be lifted. He was optimistic. That optimism obviously has turned sour. Why? Do you know?
Well, there might be many reasons. One is that I don't know why you attach so much importance to this embargo on the United States, really. Why should you care about that? You are not short of oil.
Have you seen the lines of cars stretching for blocks, in some cases for miles, waiting to get gas?
I have seen the pictures.
And you cannot
But you have imported more oil than any time in the past.
Well, not recently we haven't.
You have?
You mean we are still importing more oil than we were, let's say, in September? You believe that?
I can't say for sure. But what is certain is that you are not importing less.
Than we were importing last September? Then this whole thing is a fraud?
You know that ships are changing their destinations 2 or 3 times in the oceans. You sell the oil for a certain destination and it ends up somewhere else.
What you seem to be saying is that there is some fraud involved, that there is something going on that doesn't meet the eye.
Oh, something is going on for sure.
And who is being enriched by it?
The oil companies?
The oil companies.
You know that one oil company has made 67% interest this year and another one even more?
Well, the president of Aramco acknowledges.
Yes?
Not the president, the chairman of the board of Aramco acknowledged to us that their profits, the parent company, will go up by 400%
yes.
next year, just as Iran's profits will go up by 400%.
Yes, but this is our wealth, our natural wealth. For them, it's only a question of manipulation.
As you know, I have been across the Gulf that you call Persian and they call Arabian.
Why do you call it Gulf? You have been to school, haven't you?
Yes.
What was the name that you have read during your school days?
Persian Gulf.
All right.
But they do call it Arabian Gulf.
Well, they can do many things.
And they find an irony in the oil situation in this. They say, we impose the embargo against the United States, for instance, and the European countries. That drives the cost of oil up. Who benefits from the embargo? Iran, the Shah. Shah, who is the friend of Israel, benefits from the high price of oil caused by our embargo.
Yeah, but only enemies of Iran could have told you that. First of all, why friend of Israel?
Why?
In what sense?
Or economic cooperation.
How much?
I don't know the extent of it.
It doesn't come even to $2 or $3 million a year.
Intelligence cooperation.
That's You can get that kind of intelligence even in reading American newspapers.
It is common knowledge that they trained or helped to train your secret police, the Savak. You do have a relationship with the Israelis,
Yes,
there's no
that's
doubt.
ridiculous, but we have the same relationship with all the friendly Arab countries that we train also in this country. This means nothing.
The industrial nations, among them, of course, the United States, feel that you, sir, have pushed too far, too fast, and that you can trigger worldwide depression by doing it. Henry Kissinger says so. Sheikh Yamani, the oil minister of Saudi Arabia, says so.
That suits them. I'm not talking about Yamani because I don't like to enter into that subject. But the others, it suits them to say that. Why? Because the price that we have set for oil was one of the lowest among the prices which were studied and suggested to the OPEC organization by all the experts.
You say you don't want to talk about Saudi Arabia and Sheikh Yamani. Well, nonetheless, Saudi Arabia, #1 oil producer, has certainly as great a stake as you do. And yet, he says, it's going to trigger depression. It's going to trigger trouble.
He has been told to say that. I'm sorry to say this.
By?
I'm not going to mention any names.
Well, by President Nixon?
I'm not going to mention any names. Ask the other member of the OPEC, all those experts in the OPEC, what they think.
What kind of pressure can somebody put upon Sheikh Yamani to say it, unless his own king says say it?
You just go and ask those people.
Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? Is it going to stay the same? The cost of oil...
It's going to go certainly up because, unfortunately, your inflation is going to go up.
Is it going to go up on April 1st when...
This I can't say.
Well, you sit down with your OPEC brothers in the next few weeks, and you make a decision about the price of oil as of April 1st. Can you give us a horseback guess, Your Majesty?
I can't tell you, really. But all will depend on many factors. One is the attitude that the so-called industrial countries of the world are adopting. Is it a hostile attitude or a cooperative attitude?
You tell me, sir.
Second, it's the question of your inflation. The bill that they are every day presenting us is something ridiculous. The way that you are increasing your prices.
On?
Everything. Every kind of commodity.
For instance?
Say some spare parts for a radar station. That's only one little example. And from that you can go for everything.
Is it in retaliation for the rise of...
No, it's because they cannot control their economy.
But you can.
We can, and that's what we call your society a permissive society.
Is that that's not the only reason you call our society a permissive society?
Not the only reason.
Your Majesty.
Not the only reason.
Well, this is not a pretty subject to bring up to His Imperial Majesty, but there are those from the West who say, look at the corruption in Iran. With all of the money in your own affluent economy, in your own swollen economy, so much money sticks to the hands of people in the government. They say you can't get a contract here, and everybody's here. You know that, vendors, contractors, without a little of truth.
I think it's the most unjust thing that is said. It's just jealousy. For instance, the military purchases, it's government to government. If there is a corruption, it's from your government or the government of every other country from which we buy. So this is the unfairest and most unjust thing that I have heard.
Is it possible, Your Majesty, that because you are so busy and because you have so many things occupying you that it could be going on behind your back, sir?
No. It's impossible because I have at least 5 inspectorate organizations. One, sooner or later, they will be caught. And let me say this. First of all, I think this is a cheap accusation. Second, it is less than anything that you have in your so-called permissive society.
You mean you think there is more corruption in the United States than in...
Well, especially in your country, yes.
You are one of the longest ruling monarchs in the world today, Your Majesty. 33 years, you've survived assassination attempts, internal strife, external threats. Why?
Why did I survive?
Yes.
Well, I believe in God. Ask him.
You do.
I do.
I mean, very
seriously.
deeply.
Oh, yes. And I think this is the only explanation.
You have said the only explanation. You said, I will stay alive until I finish what I set out to do.
What was set for me to do.
By God.
That's what I believe.
When you were a little boy, you saw visions, you saw apparitions. God came to you, or God's messenger came to you.
Yes.
For some of us in the West, that is difficult to comprehend. But I say you believe it. You say it.
I do.
What happened?
Started by dreams, then apparitions and feelings, but all in 1 year, not more, between the age of 6 and 7. And then it stopped.
You have no more dreams, apparitions, visions now?
Sometimes I have dreams which come true when I don't like it.
Assassination attempts?
No, not that.
But you had premonition, you had...
Not that. When I was a kid, once I dreamt that there was a pit full of snakes, and obviously people who are always translating the dreams told me that these are your enemies. Things like that. It happens to everybody, probably. But not that.
You sleep more soundly now?
With my sleeping pills, yes.
You take sleeping pills?
Since some time now. Well, it's really tranquilizers.
You know, very few leaders like yourself, Your Majesty, talk with the candor with which you have talked on television. Why? Why are you willing to?
First of all, I believe in what I say. Secondly, I'm not afraid of my people. It's not a political campaign. I'm not going to look at the polls tomorrow to see if I'm 2 degrees higher or lower. And that's because this confidence exists between me and my people. They trust in me, I trust in them. I believe that I know the job. So I'm not trembling in thinking or saying what I say, because I know that tomorrow I won't have to go to the polls.
The Shah of Iran savors the power and the worldwide attention his oil has brought him. Unlike most autocratic leaders, as his ambition and his military muscle have grown, so is his willingness to talk to foreign reporters. 60 Minutes made its yearly pilgrimage to the Shah's palace in Tehran to canvass the royal views on assorted topics, among them our presidential election. He clearly favors Ford, though he will not say so publicly. He thinks Carter fails to fully comprehend Iran's role in the defense of American interests. On the Middle East, the Shah is committed to a secure state of Israel, but he insists the Israelis must give back the Arab lands they conquered in 1967, and he believes the Jewish lobby in the United States helps breed Israeli intransigence on that matter. In fact, he says American presidents and presidential candidates are too quick to do the bidding of the Jewish lobby. Surely, Your Majesty, you're not telling me that the Jewish lobby in the United States pulls the strings of the presidency?
Not entirely, but I think even a little too much, even for Israel interests.
You think the Jewish lobby in the United States is too powerful for the interests of Israel?
I think so. Sometimes they are disserving the interests of Israel.
Explain.
Because they're pushing around too many people.
How do you mean pushing around?
Well, pressuring, they have many means at their disposal. They are putting up pressure on many, many people. And at the end, I don't think that it will even help Israel.
Why, if this is true, why would the President of the United States pay attention to that lobby?
They are strong.
Strong in what sense?
They are controlling many things.
Controlling what?
Newspapers, medias,
Your Majesty.
banks, finances, and I'm going to stop there.
Well, now wait just a second. You really do believe that the Jewish community in the United States is that powerful? They make the media reflect their view of foreign policy?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They do not report, we do not report honestly?
Don't mix things, please. I don't say the media. I say in the media they have people. Not the entire media. Some newspapers will only reflect their views, yes.
No? The New York Times, for instance, is owned by the Salzburger family, who are Jewish. Are you suggesting that the New York Times is biased in its treatment of the question of Zionism, Israel's existence, the United States' relationship with the Arab world?
I will have to put all the articles of the New York Times written on this subject and draw the conclusion. You can put this to the computer and it will answer you.
What you're saying is that, yes, you do believe.
Well, let's wait for the answer of the computer.
Washington Post?
The same.
The networks?
Less.
I must say you are speaking with your characteristic candor.
Yes, if you like. I try to be candid. I have always been.
He was even-handed in his candor. Next, he turned to the Palestinians.
The Palestinians obviously had the sympathy of many, many people, almost all the countries in the world, persecuted people, stateless people, looking for a home or something.
Yeah.
You know, exactly like the sympathy that the Jews had when they were searching for a home.
Right.
But our good Palestinian friends must know that there is only a limit to where they can go and bully the world.
Bully the world?
Yes, by terrorism and blackmailing and this and that.
You know perfectly well, Your Majesty, that the leaders of the Arab world find the Palestinians as much a problem almost as the Israelis do. Isn't that a fact?
What I can say is that they should really open their eyes, reassert their situation. And if there is a hierarchy and someone there in command
Of the Palestinians, you mean?
of the Palestinians, to start a new policy, because the actual one is going to lead them nowhere.
With whom do they really have understanding? With Assad, with Sadat, with Hussein?
That's a very good question.
They have none with any of these leaders.
Not to my knowledge.
And they seem to be out of control.
It seems so today.
And what about the Arab leader who supports the Palestinians, the terrorists, with his oil money, Muammar Gaddafi of Libya?
He's crazy.
You really believe that?
Oh, yes, no doubt. The man is absolutely irresponsible and crazy.
We moved on to the subject of Iranian money and tales of monumental corruption, bribery, even in the royal family. Princess Ashraf is the Shah's sister.
Let me quote to you from a piece in the Washington Post. A wealthy Iranian businessman says, "Not a truck can move anywhere in this country without a payoff going to Princess Ashraf."
Who is the silly person who can believe that?
Why would you imagine this kind of thing would find its way into print?
First, you like to print those things. You newspaper people always must be sensational. And
You're satisfied?
one of your whipping boys today seems to be us in this country. So, you go for these things.
But so many stories like this have proved to be true.
They all were true except for my country.
Grumman was true.
Not here.
Northrop was true.
Not here.
Now, how are you so sure? How can you be utterly sure? Because you speak with such assurance that it is not still going on in other arms.
The arms I choose. All the systems I choose. There is no need for middlemen.
And they're not bribing you.
Well, hopefully not.
We turn to the Shah's secret police force, his FBI and CIA combined. They are called SAVAK, and they have a reputation for brutality. He acknowledged that he has SAVAK agents on duty in the United States.
And they are there for the purpose of checking up on Iranian students?
Checking up on anybody who becomes affiliated with circles, organizations hostile to my country, which is the role of any intelligence organization.
And they are there with the knowledge and consent of the United States government?
I think it is.
The deputy director of SAVAK, a man by the name of Parvis Sabeti, is reported to have castigated the FBI for not keeping a closer watch on Iranian exiles and student groups in the United States. And according to that same report, he says the CIA is no help at all.
He said, oh yes,
He said it. He is also quoted as saying, we'd better not talk about this, but we are fully aware of the situation of Iranian students abroad, especially those working in international communist activities. So you do have SAVAK agents
Well, I hope so.
in the United States.
I hope everywhere to gather those informations.
Now, when an outfit like the International Commission of Jurists comes here and then comes out with a report saying that in spite of what you say, Your Majesty, torture continues.
How do they know? Well, they can't continue saying this. But they have even accused the Great Britain of acting against the human rights.
We're talking for the moment about your country.
They are putting us in the same category.
In other words, you're saying you do what every country does.
Sure,
If
why not?
torture is necessary, you torture.
Not the torture in the old sense of torturing people, twisting their arms and doing this and that. But there are intelligent ways of questioning now.
Well, they talk about psychological and physical torture.
Physical, I don't believe.
I talked
Not anymore. Maybe in the old days, maybe.
I talked just today to a man whom I believe, who told about torture.
He was tortured?
Yes,
And you believe that he was tortured?
yes.
How many years ago?
Within, I want to be very careful, not yesterday.
Ah, well, maybe. I don't know.
The word has gone out to stop it,
To stop what?
torture.
But a long time ago, yes.
How long ago?
Well, I won't tell you, as you don't tell me.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir?
No, I must admit that it's the first time I hear that.
Truly?
Yes? What is it?
Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say?
Yes, why not?
Really?
Yes, why not?
I have your permission?
Yes, sure.
You won't send me to the SAVAK if I ask?
No, I would spare you this terrible ordeal of going through torture.
This secret study portrays the Shah as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests.
So how could I be your man, your agent,
How do you mean?
safeguarding your interests?
Well, it says that the Shah is an uncertain ally. His dreams of glory apparently...
I know. So you would like me to be your stooge?
Do you want me to go on, or shall I forget about this, Your
Well,
Majesty?
some funny points, why not?
So he went on to quote to him from the CIA profile. His dreams of glory, it said, apparently exceed his ability to finance them. When his oil revenues run out in an estimated 2 decades, he might use his new military power to seize some neighboring oil fields.
Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?
Well, the question is that I have now that you mentioned, I have seen that appearing in papers, but I think it's lots of imagination in that.
A criticism frequently voiced by American business people here, particularly in the last year or two, is this, Your Majesty. Iran does not pay its bills on time. Goods are delivered, services are rendered, but they have to wait and wait for their money. Surely you don't have cash flow problems, Your Majesty.
This is very new to me.
Oh, I've heard this over and over again.
Why don't they write to me?
Well, perhaps now that you're suggesting that they write to you, they will.
Sure.
They say months and months go by.
I can't believe that.
There is no cash flow problem. Because you yourself confess that you are in deficit this year.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But this is worth looking after. And at least for once you're very useful, that through you we can reach these people and say, why don't they write to me?
You say, at least for once you are useful. Why? I'm curious. Why are you willing to sit and answer these questions?
Because I like these kind of provocations. It gives me the opportunity of clarifying things that unfortunately are said and not always answered.
The story will continue after this.
Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini today was interviewed by Mike Wallace, the first interview by an American reporter since the ordeal of hostages began. The interview came early during a day in which later 3 hostages were put on display, pending their promised release, and amid reports that the Ayatollah and others now were mentioning possible trials for remaining hostages if the former Shah of Iran is not handed over by the United States. During the interview, you sometimes will hear an interpreter translating from our studios in New York. At other times, you will hear the official interpreter present at the interview with written answers to some of the questions which we had to submit in advance.
If there is some turmoil in Tehran, there was none apparent this morning in the holy city of Qom, 100 miles to the south. There, guarded by a lone soldier on a rooftop, is the modest compound of the Ayatollah Khomeini. This morning, in his reception room, the ground rules for the interview were carefully spelled out. No question could be asked unless it was approved ahead of time. No questions about Iran's internal politics. No questions about a lack of freedom under the Ayatollah. But there seemed no pattern to those questions that were disallowed. About half of those we proposed were simply forbidden. The interpreter said he would refuse even to ask the Ayatollah any questions that he, the interpreter, deemed inappropriate. To begin with, of course, we wanted to learn about the hostages held in the American embassy compound.
Do you still say, Imam, that if the Shah, the ex-Shah, is not returned to Iran, that those American hostages in the American embassy compound will not be freed?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the most merciful and gracious. This issue has to do with the people. The 35 million population of Iran want this, and we must investigate why the population wants the Shah returned. And unless he is returned, the hostages will not be freed.
Then, reading from a prepared text, the Ayatollah's official interpreter said, "The Shah has to return and tell us where his money is, and we have to know the extent of his treason against our people."
Reasons for the people's insistence for the Shah's return. One, that this is a nation with a poor economy, that the wealth of these people have been plundered by the Shah and his relatives, have been taken out of the country, are being deposited in various US and European banks. And these are the monies which indeed belong to the people, to these poor people.
Right.
And therefore, he has to come, he has to return and tell us where are these monies and why they are there. The second, which is even more important than the first reason, is that we want him back to show the extent of the crimes committed by this person during 37 years of his rule. We have to know the extent of his treasons in this country. This is why that he has to return and he has to be tried, and then the courts will decide.
But that is not an answer to whether the hostages will be freed.
I just gave an answer. The people will it, and we can't go against this will.
Then the hostages will remain there in the American embassy compound, what, for life? Forever?
They will remain until the Shah is returned. It is in the hands of Carter. Carter can free them by returning the Shah.
Imam, President Carter accuses your government of practicing terrorism and says that your regime will be held accountable if those U.S. hostages are harmed.
The 35 million people of Iran are terrorists? Ask Carter. You interpret politics like this? You call our people terrorists? I have heard what Carter says of them, and it doesn't make sense. He says they are not students, they are bums, mobs, they are terrorists. You know these as terrorists? This is an insult to students and people across the nation. You consider our people terrorists? You understand them of politics is that we are a nation of terrorists? We are Muslims. This is an insult.
Imam, President Sadat of Egypt, a devoutly religious man, a Muslim, says that what you are doing now is, quote, a disgrace to Islam. And he calls you, Imam, forgive me, his words, not mine, a lunatic. I know that you have heard that comment. That's what I heard President Sadat say on American television.
Yes.
That the Imam is a disgrace to Islam, and he used the word a lunatic.
Sadat ادعای اسلام می‌کند.
Sadat states he is a Muslim, and we are not. He is not, for he compromises with the enemies of Islam. Sadat has united with our enemies. Sadat knows well what is occurring south of Lebanon and with the Palestinians. He knows the crimes of Israel. Yet he still considers Begin a friend and himself a Muslim. You must try to evaluate what he is doing, then through Islam. The Egyptian people do not back Sadat.
And once again, the official interpreter reading from his prepared text.
I demand that Egyptian people try to overthrow him just as we did with the Shah.
He calls upon the Egyptian people to overthrow Sadat.
He does.
The way the Iranian people overthrew the Shah.
Exactly.
What we hear, Imam, that today, perhaps today, some black hostages and some female hostages will be released from the American embassy compound. Is that true?
ما آزادی زنها را و آزادی سیاه‌ها را
The freedom of the women and blacks will be given.
در اسلام یک احترام ویژه دارند.
Women are given great dignity in Islam, and the blacks have been oppressed in the United States. Great injustice was done unto them. They were under pressure in the United States. Thus they came here. We are doing this owing to the tenets of Islam. In return, we ask nothing for their freedom. We want the Shah. Carter must return him. The world's international law agree with this principle.
I ask you, as an American and a human being talking to an Iranian and another human being. Is there no room for compromise? Or is Iran now, in effect, at war with the United States?
I'm sorry, I can't ask that first question because that one was crossed out. Hazrat Imam.
Imam, is Iran, in effect, at war with the United States now?
حضرت امام آیا جناب عالی یا به طور کلی ایران در حال حاضر با امریکا در حال جنگ هستیم؟
جنگ مقصود چی است؟ اگر مقصود این است که
What do you mean by war? If you mean our armies against the United States armies, no, there is no such war. If you mean it is a battle of nerves, it is Carter's doing. We are against war. We are Muslims. We desire peace for all. Carter does not allow this. Carter should put aside his so-called humanism and return the criminal Shah so that we can conclude this matter. The Shah is a criminal. We all know this. This spy nest you call the U.S. Embassy then can be returned to a place of humanism and diplomacy. Carter must return the Shah. We have nothing against the people of the United States.
But if the president says he refuses to return the Shah, and if the Imam says he will not free the hostages, then what can be the answer?
Well, I'm not sure if I can get the answer because this was not in the question.
Please ask him. I'm sure it's a very simple, straightforward question.
شما البته طبق معمول اجباری نیست جواب لطف بفرمایید چون اینا تو اینا نیستش. ولی این سوالی که میکنن تو اینها نیستش.
He will not discuss
He's
that.
not even going to listen to it because it's not in here.
All right. If the Imam was so convinced that the U.S. Embassy was a spy center, why did he not close it down and break off relations with the United States? Why did he wait for this group of young Iranians to take it over?
هرگز احتمال نمیدادیم که یک سفارت
We didn't think an embassy could be a center of spying. I didn't realize this until our students found the necessary evidence. I didn't realize Carter going against all international law tenets would allow this spying and conspiracy at the American embassy. Now that our students have done this, taken the embassy, with the backing of all the people of Iran, we have now realized that the American embassy has been a center for spying.
Imam, would you permit me to go to the American embassy compound and talk to the hostages who are there?
Okay. Yes, you could.
I can go?
It does not matter. Allow him to go and observe. Our young are there, and they will show him that the Americans are safe and healthy. There is no problem in going. They are under protection. and nothing will occur to them. Islam protects the prisoner, and Islam is humane. We are Muslims. Our students are Muslim students. They will protect the prisoners. I have asked my son to observe and ensure their safety. He reported to me that they are all well. I personally wish and hope for their safety. The prisoners at the United States Embassy must ask Carter to allow the Shah to return, so they may again gain their freedom.
Well, despite that, Mike Wallace was not allowed into the embassy. But this afternoon, Iranians brought 3 of the hostages before cameras for what they called a brief news conference. The 3 were Catherine Gross of Cambridge Springs, Pennsylvania, a part-time embassy secretary, and 2 Marine sergeants, Liddell Maples of Errol, Arkansas, and William Quarles of Washington, D.C. These 3 Americans, it was said, would be released later. Whether they are the only 3 to be released was not made explicitly clear.